Well, we're going to get back to putting the hatches back on the Owen Peapod, resetting all the hatches because I got water, I think, in just about every one of them after that flip, which I wasn't expecting. Um, and so we'll do a couple things. I'm going to reset the hatches, and then I'm going to lube up the gaskets. I've got a couple of little clips I'll add in from when I was working on the 10-foot nuthatch, where I lubed its little hatches, or the seals, the rubber seals on these Sea Dog quarter turn hatches I get from Chuck down at Duckworks. So let me point down and show you what I was talking about. Now, when I had the hatch in here, and I forgot to do one thing. Normally, I always make sure that I have up, and I forgot to put a piece of tape on the up on these, but I did label them as to where they go. What had happened was when I'd filled up after the dump, and I came back up, and the water was probably back up about at level, about halfway. And so I emptied that out, and when I get home and I found that there was water inside, so I bailed that out, thinking, okay, that was it. And I was trying to decide whether it was the O-ring on the cover or the hatch itself. So once I had everything bailed out, I resealed. I had the hatch on, and then I filled got a bucket and filled it up with water about halfway, and let it sit there for a minute or two, and then I emptied it out and sponged it out, took the lid off, and I had water inside again. So I knew it was the hatch, and most likely coming around the ring. So when I pulled it off, it was kind of wimpy as far as the amount of sealant I had around it. So this time I'm going to put a lot in. I'm using some DAP Alex Plus. It's their 40-year stuff. It's acrylic with a little bit of silicone. I don't know, one way or the other, but I'm going to put a good bead around the base here. And then I'm going to go get one in between the screws. Big ridge around here. I was being kind of chintzy when I originally did this. So I wouldn't have to do too much cleanup, but you don't want to get water inside the hatches. And I've got the Owen Peapod here setting back up on the sawhorses again. I made some special ones for them. I'm going to get some, I want some bleed out around the edges here. I use my electric screwdriver to drive them in, but I want to set them by hand, and then I won't have to worry about stripping out the holes. I don't want to get them too tight. I'll let these set tonight and let the sealant harden up, and then I'll probably give them another torquing. I went around once like this to get the excess off. I think that's the old stuff. Now I'll come by on the little spots where it off the excess. Yeah. So I got a good bead to squeeze out all the way around. And I'm not going to get too anal about that. You want the caulk in there to keep the water out, not to have it look like it's absolutely perfect. Which I didn't have the first time around. I didn't have it a good bead sticking out around it, and that was bad me. So be sure you have a little bit of bleed out. You can see some of the white around the edges. I also just stuck the gasket back in, and I'm going to put the hatch back on and click it in place. So now I know the hatch and the rim are locked in place, and hopefully they're flat and not the whole thing isn't distorted. You always want to make sure the hatch cover is on when these things are set like that, so that they don't bend, or twist. You also want to check to be sure that you've got a smooth edge here before you get ready to put the hatch in. You also want to be sure that the ring doesn't have any old junk on it. There's a little bit in here, but it's down below these other rings. So I'm not going to worry about it. Well, I got this one buttered up good too, so... Oh, see, this one I remember to put a blue tape on top. So I know that these guys will all line up. I'll have to go reaching for that one. I got a nice bleed out on this one. Now I want to put the hatch ring in. And the hatch cover. Dog it down now. Lot better hatch seal this time than the last time. I should not have to worry about water entry getting into these things. Hopefully my arm won't be in the way. Getting that last little bit out of there. Give me a new cloth here pretty soon. There. Like I said, I was going to take my gaskets here, and one side shows a little bit of compression line on it from where the hatch has been compressed down, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to take some petroleum jelly and redo the gasket, put a little bit of more. I've done this before with, I had some rocket boxes I picked up at a salvage store for rafting when I was doing the whitewater kayaking and rafting scene. And the gaskets had dried out from the Korean War or whenever they had been made. But I took some, I used some mineral oil and some Vaseline on the gaskets and just kept them lubed for about, moistened for about a month. And they came back and became soft again and waterproof. So I know this stuff will work. So just put a little bit in, and you don't have to overdo it. Probably do this maybe once a year with your gaskets, or twice a year, depending on if it's really hot in your area, in the sun, in the, being, these hatches are black. If I was probably down in the southern United States, I probably would have gotten white hatches just to keep the heat down. So, okay, let me stick those back in again. As an afternote, I just discovered that if your hatches are really difficult, once you get them, the quarter turn hatches, you get them down and you get that last little quarter of an inch to make the little pegs snap into their locations, then if it's really hard, then lube your gaskets, because that's it was like click. So it's easy. So once a year, lube these things up a little bit to keep them fresh. I don't know if Chuck sells aftermarket gaskets or not. I'll have to email him to find out, but I haven't seen them. So, well, that's one hull down and only 2 more, maybe 3 more to go. I should do the 10-foot nut hatch. I definitely need to do the O&P pod, or not the O&P pod, this is the O&P pod. The Granville Bay should probably have it done too. So let me cover this up before it gets full of pine needles. I just vacuumed it out, but you wouldn't believe it. A wind gust just came up and we'll do something else inside the barn next.